1 week season.
1 week season, fam. La Familia. Welcome back. Monday, August 12th. My name is Mike Johnson, Johnson86. I am your host. Coming to you again Monday, August 12th. We are recording this the evening of Sunday, August 11th. Got a lot to talk about. Got a whole weekend of preseason games behind us now. Real football has started. Well, not the real football, but we are seeing teams playing. We are seeing personnel groups. We are seeing formations. We are seeing depth charts and tempo and all the things that we've been waiting months and months to see. So it is for real now. The kid gloves are off, and it is time to get after it a little bit. So with that said, I'm going to bring in my esteemed co-host, Mr. Billy Gableman, StatATL. How are we doing today, Billy?
Mike, happy Sunday night, buddy. How's it going for you?
Hey, it's terrific. It's been a fun week. Had kind of a lot going on. Monday, obviously, last Monday was super fun, but also it was a long day. There was a lot of planning that went into it that, it was obviously took up an entire day where I was just sitting here, jamming out. It's like 12-year-old me or 14-year-old me. That's like that would have been my dream, sitting there and talking football and drafting fantasy teams all day. But adult me spent a couple days picking up the pieces from the fun. But it was a blast. I had a blast last Monday. I think I had a lot of positive feedback from it. And yeah, drafters is rolling along. They filled up the $2 contest filled. As expected, similar to the first $2 contest, once it got to a certain tipping point, everyone said, "Oh shoot, I have to get all my entries in," and the fill rate went. In the last 2 days, I think, like 5,000 or 6,000 entries in the last two days. So they've got another one coming. I talked to them, and they've got another contest coming. They are a little up in the air on what the format will be. They might do another small one, but they have a couple other ideas bouncing around. So I would think, it's got to be pretty quick here that they're going to come out with it, right?
That'd be my thinking. What are we, 20 days, 23 days, something like that? Three or so weeks from start of the season?
Yeah,
under 4 weeks for sure. So
5th is I think September 5th is the Ravens Chiefs, the opening game with the Super Bowl rings and all that. So yeah, we are. Yeah, it's about 3.5 weeks away.
25 days, 24 days, something like that.
Yeah. So they gotta. I would think potentially by the time that people are watching this on Monday, they'll have another contest to go enter.
So it'd be exciting.
Yeah, so
I know that I maxed both $2. I think you did as well, or came close.
I did. I maxed the second one that just filled. The first one I ended up at 149. I thought I had entered like another slow draft, and then must have misclicked or missed something because I ended up not having it. So is what it is. I don't think they had any awards for that one. But yeah, so 300 or 299 drafts, got the discount under $3, $299. But yeah, speaking of that, when you are watching this, JM for the OWS fam, JM should be sending out an email today. Well, Monday, he's sending out an email, kind of update for the season, that sort of thing. And yeah, he's going to talk about different things. I've got a course coming out. There's a couple other courses coming out, giving a rundown of some things. We've got a fantasy draft guide for your season-long leagues that we're doing this year, a fantasy newsletter that we're excited to have you contributing to this year. And that's like a new offering that we'll do specifically for like season-long things. And yeah, so a lot going on. Along with that, our Best Ball Plus subscription drops in price to $99. So if anybody's been watching along, considering making the plunge, yada yada yada, this would be a potential time, uh, you know, last kind of big price drop where you still have a significant amount of uh, a significant amount of drafting to do. So yeah, check that out. Once again, I'll throw it up on here. Sign up at Drafters. If you're not already on Drafters, use code OWS on your first deposit for 100% match up to $100. So I'll put $100 on, you'll have 200 to play with. Who doesn't like free money? And then it's $99 for our Best Ball Plus product. So that $100 you save, you could still come out plus a dollar. Uh, by spending $99 on our Best Ball Plus product, you have $200 of drafters credit to play with, and the best, I'll go ahead and say it, the best drafters content in the industry to help you build some super teams. So with that, this Wake and Snake, we're here to talk about players and teams and stuff, and we've finally got some players and teams to talk about. So I just took Tank Dell with the 38th pick here. I'm assuming you saw his touchdown the other night.
I didn't see it live. I saw the highlight.
Yeah. And then you see the Diggs meltdown right after.
No.
Well, I wouldn't call it a full meltdown, but there was video of him talking to Stroud on the sideline, and he was relatively what's the word I'm looking for? He was very animated.
Animated?
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Along with the Texans, Mixon still has not practiced. Been a couple weeks. He has been out with a hamstring, and Dameon Pierce got all the work with the starters. So, a guy we kind of left for dead, potentially showing a little bit of, a little bit of life potentially.
Yeah, that'll be a situation I think to kind of monitor the next couple weeks, kind of see what happens there, because I don't think we've talked about a Texans running back all season. Certainly not Pierce or Jawar, where if Mixon stays hurt or doesn't get any reps, like those guys certainly start to become more viable,
right,
in these formats. One of the guys who went off the board, I'll let you kind of pull here, but since we drafted last kind of day of drafters, there's been some bigger news than Joe Mixon. I think kind of the biggest, most noteworthy news.
I'm gonna take Mixon just for the
fun of it.
Yeah. Well, and now that I'm reading that, it says that today, so Sunday, he practiced for the first time. So maybe it's just some veteran stuff. He is 28, 29. So, anyways, there we go. And I'm gonna. So Best Ball Plus subscribers, if you listened to my training session from this last week, you could see a little bit what I'm doing here. I did it in a little bit roundabout way from what I talked about in the training session, but same sort of idea. Should be able to somewhat guess kind of what my strategy from here will be, specifically at the running back position. So back to you, Stat.
No, that's a perfect little segue, because you took Xavier Worthy. So kind of the big news that kind of came out of the preseason game yesterday was Hollywood Brown's shoulder injury. Shoulder dislocation, likely going to miss a month from now. So he may get back in time for the first game, but I doubt it. I would estimate that he's probably going to miss 1 or 2 games. So you kind of seen his ADP has fallen probably around, if not a round and a half in 1 day's worth of the news cycle. And you're seeing Rashee Rice and both Xavier Worthy both seeing their ADP rise. I would imagine they'll both kind of rise about half a round from where they would be. So yeah, I mean, I've been seeing Rashee Rice go in the 4th round basically all day today in the slow drafts that I've got going, and Xavier Worthy in the 6th round mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's about a half a round or a round earlier than they have been going. Um, so that's certainly newsworthy. I think I think it's important to not overreact too much. Like, this isn't a torn ACL. This is, a shoulder dislocation. He's likely only going to miss 1 or 2 games. So for him to fall from, that 4 or 5 turn where he was going pretty frequently down now into like the 7th and 8th round, I kind of feel like there's some value there. If you're picking him up in the 8th round and he's your wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 6, like that seems like some great value to me if he only misses 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, I dropped him a ways, but and it all kind of depends on your build. He just went here at 71. Like,
What's
I,
his ADP?
uh,
Sorry to interrupt you.
well, it still says 57, but we both know that's just not correctly updated. It doesn't have enough recent drafts. It hasn't. I'm guessing in the next day or two it'll refresh. But like you look at Jackson Smith and Najigba. You have Roma Dunze is like the next kind of one by ADP. And then JSN and Lad McConkey. Those are like the next 3 kind of guys. And it's like, so Rome only played, so we can talk about this too. Caleb Williams looked terrific. But Rome Odunze, he only played like half the snaps with Caleb Williams, and he only played in 3 wide receiver sets. So 2 wide receiver sets, it was DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, which you would expect for like, they're going to defer to the veterans. I think Rome is, he's a guy I really like. I'm high on the talent. Love him in Dynasty. Love him like on DraftKings. I think I've got like 25-30% of him. And I'm not a big like player exposure. Like I'm not overly like concerned with that. But at the same time, like it's more descriptive of how I feel about the situation. So
Yeah, see you on the clock here again. You think
yeah.
Bestball Plus subscribers know what position you're likely to be targeting here?
Yeah, I took Curtis Samuel. We have so much to talk about. So anyways, Roma Dunze, like I think in the playoff style formats, little higher value just because, the odds of him having a different role at the end of the season, a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
But for the cumulative, it's a little dicey, right? I mean, he could be playing only half the snaps. I'm gonna take Ferguson.
There are just such. I know, like we don't want to be too like player takey on this show, but like there are just such better 7th round picks. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like it blows my mind that I feel like at 81, Khalil Shakir went 20 spots above ADP. But like if you're making me choose between like Shakir and Adunze, I'd rather have Shakir, and he goes 20 spots later.
Well, yeah, and Shakir and Samuel went here. I took Samuel, would have taken Shakir if he was there. But I mean, they both looked legit. And I mean, I don't think they're like otherworldly talents, but like they have talent, they have ability to separate. They can make some plays with the ball in their hands, and they're playing with Josh Allen. So like it's not shocking that they are, that they showed out a little bit and looked to be on the same page. I'm very bullish on those 2. I haven't been really in on Keon Coleman at all, and of course, one preseason quarter with Josh Allen doesn't like necessarily validate everything, but from what I saw, I feel pretty good about how I've played that situation so far.
Mm-hmm.
That Bears Bills game, that really was a fun one and interesting for seeing the Bills receiver situation play out, and then seeing the Bears. So I'm if I wasn't, I'd kind of pot committed myself to what I was doing with this roster, but DeAndre Swift at
He
91,
looks good.
he looked really, really good. Like if he plays in their backfield situation, so after him, then it's Rashawn Johnson, who I've got a lot of, and then Khalil Herbert, who I don't really have any of. So they played the Hall of Fame game. Johnson played first before Herbert. Then it was interesting because on Saturday, Johnson's not hurt, but they didn't have him play or suit up. So Swift started and played all the snaps with the starters, basically, and then Herbert came in and Johnson didn't play at all. So it's like, are they showcasing Herbert? I know he's been the rumor of some trade stuff. And then like we haven't seen Johnson and Swift play together, but like, I mean, I think Caleb Williams, this offense is going to be really good. And that's kind of been my stance the whole time. Again, just like affirming myself right now on August 11th, a month before the games actually start. But yeah, I mean, if Swift plays, I said it in our Discord the other day, like if Swift plays, if he's a 65% back, like he's going to have a career year. Like I believe that.
Yeah, he's looked good, and he's great value in the 8th round. And he could be your running back 1 depending on the build.
Well, here's the thing with DeAndre Swift. I like to think about things because we get so caught up in like, and I have to catch myself too, in like thinking of, okay, this thing happened last year. This offense was this player was this. And like, you've got to like get yourself out of that like trap, I guess. And so like DeAndre Swift is an interesting study to me because so 2 years ago, he's with the Lions, right? And it's him and then Jamal Williams, who is like, if you saw the Hard Knocks, like he was like a team leader. Campbell like loved him. Everybody, he was like, it was all about him. And he played well. Like he led the NFL in touchdowns, I believe, because he got all the goal line work. But like that was like the dynamic in the running back room. And they had a really rough start to that year, and Swift had some injuries. Last year, he's on the Eagles. Well, obviously, Hurts had 15 rushing touchdowns or whatever. They don't really check it down to the running back, had kind of a vanilla offense. But like, you look at it and it's like, okay, now you have Swift on what might end up being the best passing offense of the group, and he might have the biggest snap share, the best snap share that he's had of the 3 years. So like, and he's going the latest that he's gone of the 3 years. So those little like those things are always interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm curious where you go here. Okay, I figured you might.
I don't have any Bears on the roster, but like I'm all excited about them right now, so I'm just gonna take it. Took Cooks there, and we talked about that a little bit. And if anybody for Bestball Plus subscribers, my new storyboard dropped today. Talked a little bit about a concept of just like betting against certain things. So Cooks and Ferguson, a little bit of a bet against, I guess, CeeDee Lamb being all in for this season. That whole situation is, probably one we should talk about too. A lot going on in Dallas as per usual, I guess.
Yeah, per usual. So I guess for those who didn't see, like Jerry Jones kind of made like a Jerry Jones-esque idiotic, in my opinion, kind of like brush off comment where it was just like, I'm not really in any hurry to get the CeeDee Lamb contract, have those conversations. And then like CeeDee Lamb on Twitter was just like, laugh out loud. Like, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was the wide receiver 1 last year, but fine, take your time. We've got all these other great offensive weapons on this team.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I mean, and I can't really figure out what they're doing. I know they're in like a tough spot because they have Parsons and Dak to figure out too. But like, are they basically like hoping to just like play it out and they're gonna let them all walk? Like, I don't know what like what's the end game here? They've probably cost themselves like $50 million on Dak if they end up signing him because they
Waited
like
because they
if they would have signed him to a deal in like March or April, relative to what it would be now after like Love and these other guys have signed, like they've cost themselves a good chunk of money. Kind of the same with Lamb because that I mean that's just how these contracts work. He's gonna expect his deal to be more than Jefferson's.
yeah,
So
no doubt. So I mean, you know, hasn't shown up to training camp yet. You know what I mean. He hasn't.
well, he's
He's a
showing up.
veteran.
He just won't.
Oh, he's
He's
shown
just
up, but
he's
not many
standing on the
pass.
side. Yeah, that's the new with the CBA. They have to show up, or like it doesn't like accrue. So then they get these like wild fines. So they just show up and then basically are like, yeah, I'm not ready to practice. And stand on the side in a bucket hat. Interesting world we live in. Um, yeah, where else do we have? Okay, this guy drafting here took Devin Singletary last round. The Giants, they both of their backup running backs, Tyrone Tracy and Eric Gray,
They
had
both looked
some,
good in the
yeah.
preseason game.
I mean, are you putting any stock in that? Do you have any interest there? What's your kind of, do you have any take there?
Um, Candidly, no. I feel like Giants fans will tell you that Saquon Barkley was like a horrible pick because he was a running back, and we used not we, but you know used such high draft capital on him in the real NFL draft, and like he is an amazing talent, but like could never really stay healthy. These two backups that we're talking about, I don't know. It's hard for me to get excited about the backup running back for the New York Giants when I feel like the New York Giants are going to be a bottom 10 team in the NFL.
Hmm.
Like it's just hard for me to get excited about betting about that offense. So I don't mind them as my RB6 in the 17th round, but you know that's kind of where I fall on it. I don't want it to be like all just about draft capital and
Yeah.
you know
Well,
your
and
opportunity cost, but it's hard for me
yeah,
to get about the
and
Giants.
part of it for me is just like I don't know that they would give if Singletary leaves, it sounds like he's the trusted vet. They'll kind of roll with him early in the year. They're obviously going to try to win. Um, but like if things get a little shaky and they go young, like I don't know that they would just go with one of them. Like I feel like it could be a committee on an offense that scores like 14, 17 points a game. And I don't, I don't
So
know if those
how I
guys.
like to sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
You're good.
I don't know, how I like to look at those type of situations is like, let's say like best case scenario. Devin Single, I mean, and I don't mean it like best case scenario, but like best case
Yeah.
scenario for the backup running backs is Devin Singletary tears his ACL week 1 or like week 3 of training camp. And I feel like they either bring in another back or those two guys are running back by committee. And neither of them are like, just my take could be totally wrong. And this could be, a clip 6 months from now. And you're just like, Billy, you're an idiot. Like, I just don't see either of them of having the upside, even if you take them in the 19th round, of being like, I don't want to say Kyron Williams because that was literally such an outlier performance. Like that's not going to happen again. But like I don't see them as being a league winner. Like I find it very hard for you to lose. We talk about inflection points, and I won't get too much into that for on the YouTube stream. But like I find it almost impossible for a New York Giants backup running back to be an inflection point. Like their offense isn't good enough for it to matter.
Yeah, so many people like the FOMO like wears on people like that they think like they see Eric Gray bust like this long run. The other thing is like being able to take from these preseason games to see like the bigger picture of like okay, uh like, yes, like, they look good, but they played the Lions, and the Lions didn't play anyone of significance,
No,
like,
all
from their
backups.
team. Like, they weren't playing the Lion anyone like, they weren't playing any part of the Lions, like, defense. So, like, a 40-yard touchdown run or whatever against guys who half of them are gonna be practice squad or unemployed in 2 weeks, you know, d should that really sway us? And to your point, like, highly unlikely, to narrow things down, it's easier to there are a lot of guys that you can be like, "All right, well, probably this guy is not gonna, like, bury me for not having him." So yeah, I like that kinda take. I just took Jalen Wright. So 2 guys that I took these last 2 picks. First, Taysom Hill. Um, so he played the first 6 snaps with the Saints. He played 2 snaps at tight end, 2 in the slot or out wide, 1 at running back, and 1, um, as, like, a fullback or, like, a move like he was moving or something. So he played the first 6 snaps, he played every snap, moved all over. Then they, like, shut him down for the night. They played other guys, but, like, they kept playing some other starters, but they were, like, done with him. So, like, that was eye-opening for me because I'm like, "Okay, like, what do they have planned for this guy?" Um, that's like I'm kind of wheels up on Taysom at this point, which feels weird for like a I don't know, what is he, a 33-year-old gadget player? He turns 34 this month. But
It's so interesting because I feel like uh, and again, not too much strategy, but like on builds where I end up waiting on tight end, he's probably, I mean, again, we've talked about exposures and how you specifically think you should be looking at them. I pretty much agree with a lot of that, but like on builds where I wait on tight end, he's got to be 50% ownership for me on like a build where he's the first tight end taken. Like if I'm waiting till like the 11th or 12th round, I have him as like him or Hawkinson are like where I start if I'm going late tight ends. So like
Mhm.
it's crazy how much I feel like it's crazy how much exposure I have to a 33-year-old gadget player.
Yeah,
But
about to be 34. Just a lot to talk about again. Jalen Wright, uh, he was wildly impressive. I got him here, and I mean, he made that run, and again, like I don't, who knows who was on the field for the other team, but like you could see the skills, the vision, the quickness, the burst, change of direction, and it's hard not to just like envision. I mean, most there at Achan are like it's their backfield, but like when if and when one of them misses time, like it's hard for me not to imagine that he's going to get 7 to 10 touches or whatever.
so this guy who's picking now, Amando, took Demarcus Robinson with his last pick.
Hmm.
Um, to me, I don't know that Demarcus Robinson's winning that wide receiver 3 job. I don't know. Jordan Whittington has looked really solid in the game yesterday that they played, and in the stories that I'm hearing out of beat writers out of camp. I don't know. I wouldn't be rushing to draft Demarcus Robinson where he's going at current ADP.
Yeah, and he obviously he finished last year so strong. He had 5 straight games of 13 or more PPR points to end the regular season. So he was like, I mean, he was really rolling. That was with Cup and Puka there. Their offense kind of hit the stride at the right time, made the playoffs. But yeah, to your point. So last week on Day of Drafters, we had Greg from Coach Speak Index on, and just before we went on here, actually, he tweeted out McVay kind of speaking really highly of Whittington, saying he's going to be a big part of what we do, et cetera, et cetera. And he has a pretty high reliability in terms of that the coach speak stuff. When he says stuff, usually he kind of follows through with it. And yeah, I mean, Whittington is like, when you think about Cooper Kupp's age, 31 years old, of course, he's one of the many players in the best shape of their life in training camp. But I kind of believe it with him. Like, that's kind of his MO, right? He works his tail off, like legit. So interesting there that like he fits like almost the same mold as Puka, right? Like talented, like physically gifted, like seems really sharp, seems like very attention to detail. So like the things that they look for. He was overshadowed by I think he's from Texas, right? Is that right? Look, yeah,
I
he
don't
played at
know.
Texas.
I'll cheat and look it up.
Yeah, I just did. He played at I just wanted to make sure I wasn't putting my foot in my mouth.
Yeah,
But he played
Texas.
at Texas, so that's Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy were there, and a little bit overshadowed. But you put him here, and Puka's battling this knee thing. Cup is up in age. Robinson was basically brought in off the street last year, and then played well, so we got that job. But like, I mean, there's a lot of pass for Whittington having being like a real contributor.
Yeah.
And we know what Stafford and that Rams offense, like what they can create. We saw it with Puka.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like he's a guy where like, yeah, that could be an inflection point.
Agreed. And it's interesting. You brought up other Texas wide receivers with AD Mitchell. Like, it's interesting kind of watching, that camp battle go through. So like another one of the bigger stories again of this week was, Colts number 2 wide receiver, second year wide receiver Josh Downs suffering, sustaining a high ankle sprain. He's probably going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He's going to miss a couple of games into the regular season probably. So he was really a bright spot for the Colts last season. And coach is really singing his praise out of early training camp and things of that nature. So, to me, that it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens there. I feel like it makes Alec Pierce like sort of interesting because he's been playing ahead of Adonai Mitchell. I feel like he's an interesting dart throw for 19th, 20th round spots, especially on Richardson builds. I don't know. He's a guy that I feel like outside of if I'm in a draft with you, I feel like he's a guy I don't ever see get drafted outside of maybe the two of us taking some shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's he's like that perfect kind of late round dart throw, especially valuable I think in like the playoff style formats. I don't know what his season ends up looking like. Like, I think, like, there's just a lot that would have to happen for him to be, like, a really high-end season-long producer, but, like, he has that big play profile. He's like a downfield threat, I think, in playoff-style formats for sure, and even in these formats, like, I think, yeah, with Downs out, I think Pittman will move to, like, a big slot role a little more. And I think that Mitchell and Pierce will both play on the perimeter when, in their 3 wide receiver sets. And then in the 2 wide receiver sets, it'll be Pittman. The other 2 will rotate. And then they've got like 4 tight ends that are all, it's like, it's a mess. I know you and I both have some decent sized Jelani Woods bags from early in the draft cycle. Not looking the greatest.
It's okay. I've got a couple of those. I'm not giving up hope on my man Hull over here in the running back room. Hey, Trey Sermon got hurt. Maybe. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving up on those shares. But I don't know. I don't want to say I disagree with you, but I feel like a guy like Alec Pierce could be viable in this cumulative scoring.
Oh, he is for sure. I'm saying I think he's even more viable in the playoff format.
I agree, just because of the spike weeks. But
Mhm.
with like Josh Downs' injury, like his ADP is falling. Like you're getting him at like 135, 140 pretty regularly.
Mhm.
So to me, if he misses a couple weeks and maybe you get a couple of we'll call them usable weeks out of Alec Pierce early in the season, you don't really need that much from your late round picks. I know in some of your training and in Discord, we've kind of talked about it and gone through like some winning rosters. Like, you don't have to hit on every single pick.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that, but yeah, I mean, I think that he's viable. So where you go out here? Oh, Jordan Mason.
Yeah, so I took Mason and then I took McCarthy. Again, this is the all immediate knee-jerk reaction team. So you've got Braylon Allen, who, and I said this in our Discord. I think Braylon Allen, there's probably like 12 to 15, 12. I would say there's a good 10 to 12 teams for sure in the league that he would be the best running back on that team. Obviously, he's behind Breece Hall on the Jets, but I think he is a very legit talented player. So he's really interesting to me. Then Jordan Mason. I mean, I think he is. I think he's the running back too in San Francisco.
I
You
agree.
know, Mitchell. I mean, Mitchell. He was the starter there before they traded for CMC 2 years ago. Kind of been the lead backup. He's been around a little bit, so Shanahan says nice things about him. But like, he was like a fifth round pick, and like he's been hurt a lot. He hasn't actually produced that much to where like they have this undying allegiance to him. And Mason, like the drumbeat just stays loud with how good he's looked. And he looked good running behind their starting offensive line this last week. So I'm kind of operating as if he's the next guy up.
Yep, I like that. I like that shout. So I'm going to go give you some borderline fantasy relevant news here. So Javon Baker just went off the board like 5-6 picks earlier. I think he was a second round pick in like 2015. Don't quote me, but the Patriots released Juju Smith-Schuster today.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that that's fantasy relevant. I don't know that Juju has been relevant since he was on the Chiefs. But
I mean,
maybe.
it unloads, it relieves a little bit of the log jam. I think it was kind of like an expected move, but still, helpful nonetheless, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you going to do it? Are we going to see Jordan Whittington on this roster?
Don't jinx us.
Okay.
Yeah,
We aren't recording this live. People aren't listening who are in this chat.
yeah. Well, I know, but I just don't even like when there's a guy that I really want. I don't even like.
Oh, you don't even
I
star
don't
him?
even star him because like I feel like it's like bad luck.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe I'll start doing that in some of my drafts. I feel like I get sniped a lot, and maybe
One
that's
of
just
those like ridiculous, quirky. Like I'm a golfer, so I have these like weird superstitions. Um,
I
yeah,
hate golf.
so I'm gonna take a receiver and then a third tight end here. So I think I know who I'm going with both of them. Ooh, it said Washington. The long last name there
Name,
scared me.
and it started with a W.
Yeah.
Who do you have a tight end already?
I have Ferguson and Taysom.
Yeah, so Dolchich is a great,
So
different bye
either
week.
Dulcich or who I really want is Everett.
You don't have to worry about him getting sniped.
Yeah, that is the nice thing. I've got decent sized Everett bags as well. So what is going on here? The interesting thing with Everett, he played over Cole Kmet, which was very notable. And not something that like was on the radar for many people. It wasn't something that had been talked about. I have like 15% Everett on DraftKings. I have like 6% on Drafters. He's a guy I took in the 20th round a lot, especially like earlier in the cycle. I kind of cooled on him just because hadn't really heard much, but he played in Seattle with Shane Waldron, I believe. So like he has like previous like a past history with the offensive coordinator for the Bears. Yeah, I think he's a pretty talented player. He had some really good 2 years ago, especially. He had some really good games with the Chargers. I think he had like a huge playoff game. I think when they had that when they blew that game against the Jaguars in the playoffs 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, a talented player, and I'm pretty high on this offense. I didn't expect that though. I didn't expect him to just like outright be um, playing ahead. Like they did some 12 personnel with both him and Komet on the field, but then they had uh, like when it was 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers, uh, Everett was the one tight end, and he played all the third down. So um, that this is when Caleb Williams was in. So I mean, seems
It's
like he's the
noteworthy.
guy, right? I mean, and so especially here, like with Williams uh, being my top quarterback, just kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I
this
think
is
some interesting kind of late round news because I don't know that I would normally bring it up, but I saw Rondell Moore get drafted today in the 20th round. So people obviously aren't that hip to the news, but if you haven't seen it, he got carted off, knee injury. Like Ian Rappaport basically, I think reported that he's out for the year. So
yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard the like specific what the type of injury is, but like he's done. And you see Ray McLeod just went.
mhm,
Um, so he's a guy, I think he was previously with the Niners,
he
Ray
was.
McLeod. And kind of was so he's 27 years old. Was a return specialist. He's got a little juice to his game. But it's interesting too. I know Hilo just tweeted out or shared something that somebody else tweeted out that the Falcons played like 85% 11 personnel, so with 3 wide receivers in their first preseason game. So with Moore out of the picture, seems like McLeod's going to be that guy. So he's another guy. Um, if I mean with Kirk Cousins, we've seen what he can do for an offense. We saw it like KJ Osborne. How good was he for a couple years in DFS? Some weeks as a low price guy or in best ball, giving you 3 or 4 pretty solid weeks for an 18th to 20th round pick. Same kind of deal here. McLeod he could fit that role for sure.
Yep, going to be looking like the Falcons slot receiver. So, um, yeah, I mean, there are definitely worse 20th round picks.
Did you see any of the Raiders game?
I did not. I didn't. I didn't actually watch any of the preseason games. My parents were in town, so
So Brock Bowers looks really good. Jacoby Myers has been getting talked up all of camp, uh, just with like how like he's like so locked in, so professional, yada yada yada. Now Devontae Adams didn't play, but both of them played really well. Aiden O'Connell got the start. I think Minshew came in the second series. I don't know if they alternated more than the 2 series, but um, and it might be a thing where next week Minshew's going to start and O'Connell comes in the next one, and then they make a decision. But I think this offense has a chance to be, it's projected to be pretty poor, but they might have enough talent to kind of to make whatever quarterback that is like very viable. And I think the indecision makes it like Minshew. I think Minshew was undrafted here. O'Connell went the third to last pick. So that's an interesting spot, uh, to potentially attack.
yeah. I mean, I can't see the whole draft board. It looks like that guy in the 3 hole took AOC, Justin Fields, and Kyler.
Yeah.
I can't. I know that we could talk about a little bit about embracing some uncertainty. I don't know. I don't know that that's a build I can get behind. Like strong possibility you're taking a 0 Kyler's bye week, or at least a 50% possibility you're taking a 0.
Yeah, well, and it's if Kyler gets hurt, misses even, it doesn't have to be like a season ender, which is, some I think people think too often about like, oh, like if this guy like tears his ACL or he's out, like he
What
misses
if
the
he
whole
misses three
year.
weeks?
Yeah, but like, yeah, if this is one where if he misses 3 weeks, like I mean, Fields did not look good. Like his passing stats were all right, but like he had a couple fumbles, botched snaps, like the reads did not like it didn't look like he didn't look sharp to the point where the Steelers are kind of built on they're trying to be competitive, tough, hard-nosed, win games by controlling the ball. um I don't know, I don't think he's going to be the guy early in the year. And then O'Connell, the Raiders could even be a situation where like they change back and forth multiple times throughout the year. But I don't know. Also, like if they get rolling, one of those guys could be
Could be.
interesting.
Yeah. Nice.
McCarthy looked really good.
Well, that's why he's on your team overreact to preseason week 1 build right here.
Correct.
That worked out well.
This is the all overreaction team. But yeah, I mean he made a lot of solid throws. Again, he's playing against backups. Like it's not like world beating, but some of the throws it was the throws he was making, and how he was letting it rip and the parts of the field he was able to touch. I don't know. I just think it's going to be hard to keep him off the field at a certain point. I kind of think, they have that week 6 bye. Hawkinson's coming back around then. My gut kind of tells me that whenever Hawkinson comes back, they give him a week or two to get his legs under him. And then, around that time is when McCarthy gets the nod.
So let me just hypothetical situation to you, Mike. Whoever team, it doesn't matter. Packers, Vikings, whoever. Their entire second string of backups or the entire defense where they have some first round picks at Ohio State. Who do you think is who's a better group? You know what I mean? Like I know that they're like you get a lot of negative vibes about, or they just kind of put it down. Oh, it was against complete backups. Well, and a whole squad of NFL backups is not worse than a college team. So he went out against likely better competition than college and didn't fall flat on his face, which you can't say about some of the preseason week 1 games for other rookie quarterbacks. Didn't look as good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I'm not trying to say like start drafting JJ McCarthy in the 10th round with every one of your drafts, but it's certainly a positive sign. He did look good, and same with Caleb, obviously.
Yeah. Well, we're talking rookie quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels made a nice downfield throw. A couple things there. So Diami Brown made the catch there. Eckler and Robinson got, both were involved with the starting offense, but it seemed like Eckler was kind of like he was in there first. Actually, on the play, that was one of the things I noticed when I was watching the highlights when Daniels hits Brown on like the 40-yard catch. It's like it's a third down play, like the third play from scrimmage for their offense. But Eckler was lined up in the slot next to him and also running like a vertical route. So he was like right there when like Brown went down. So just the fact like that like stood out to me that like a couple things like, and Eckler's a guy I've been kind of high on. He was on my list. Like my guys came out this week on our 1 week season Bestball Plus. But it's basically like, so last year he was a top 6 pick by ADP.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's on a new offense, which historically has been favorable to running backs. Cliff Kingsbury's offenses, in Arizona, that's one thing they did is, Chase Edmonds, some of these guys were like, they had room to run, playing next to a rushing quarterback, and he's running these vertical routes and playing, the first 4 or 5 snaps of the game. Again, just affirming my biases, but I mean, it's definitely that's an eye-opening thing. Like we know this guy is, he's only a year removed from uh, basically everyone being, in agreement, like he's one of the top backs in the league. And he's another one where, like, I talked about this with JM last week. Um, he doesn't have, so like I think he turns 29 this season. Um, yeah, he's 29. He turned 29 in May, but he doesn't have the mileage of most like elite feature backs that are 29 years old. He doesn't have the same mileage. Like he was an undrafted free
No,
agent.
they're not pounding him in between the tackles for years.
Yeah,
That hasn't been his game.
Undrafted free agent. Basically went like a year and a half where he didn't touch the ball. Then he spent like a year and a half where he was like the Jalen Warren, like the 30% like guy who looks explosive and all the fantasy people wish played more. He was like that guy behind Melvin Gordon. And then the last like 3 or 4 years, he's kind of been a feature guy. But even last year, he was like kind of hampered by injury. His total, the Chargers fell apart at the end. So like they kind of shut him down. Like he didn't take on that much, that much pounding. So I'm very bullish on him.
Same. He generally goes around the 10-11 turn. I'm bullish on him for not just those reasons, and maybe this is just a really ridiculous reason to be high on him. There's not too many running backs that have a week 14 bye that I'm super high on. So you know what I mean? Like when I'm looking at avoiding some buys, I feel like a lot of guys that I like are like week 12 buys. So it's interesting. But yeah, no, I mean, from more of a football sense, yes. I think he's one of the best values on the board from where he's going compared to what we've seen in the. This isn't 5 years ago. This isn't the people, myself included, a few years ago who kept chasing Josh Gordon. You know what I mean? Like this is like last year. So yeah, I mean, I think he's a great value.
Yeah, I mean, it's Josh Gordon. That's
sorry. I don't know where I pulled that from, but man, those are just some sad memories just now.
No, the other one I want to talk about is Brian Thomas. He didn't really do anything with Trevor Lawrence, but he had a really nice one-handed deep downfield catch. 40 plus yards. It was like, you see why he's a first round pick. Gabe Davis played basically in every down role with the starting offense. Made a nice 20-yard catch and run, big bodied receiver. I look at, and I talked about, so I went on Dr. Roto's Sirius XM show 2 weeks ago. And I talked about Trevor Lawrence and how a lot of his issues last year were, there was some contested catch issues. Like Ridley could have had there was like 5 or 6 different plays where like could have been touchdowns, but like he didn't get a foot in, or he kind of bobbled it, or like, and he's like a smaller in stature guy. Zay Jones missed a lot of time. So like, and then Lawrence missed a lot of throws. Like he sailed them high, like he was missing high a lot. So I was just saying how I was high on Lawrence just because I think he could have a bounce back. And I think Davis and Thomas, they cure a lot of those ills, just being bigger body guys that can win some of those contested catches, that give a little bit of bigger catch radius for, him sailing those passes. Maybe they can still get to some of them. And again, hey, I'm here to, August 12th, we're here to affirm my biases. But it looks, I think that was their plan, and it looks like if everyone stays healthy, it's going to work out.
Yeah, definitely a strong possibility for a bounce back season here from Trevor Lawrence. He's got the weapons.
Yeah, and I'm not I don't have much Gabe Davis. I'm not overly high on him, but it kind of stood out to me. Yeah, I think that's basically it's. I think. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say I'm looking at some of the bullet points that I had in terms of notes, which I put out tomorrow on Twitter, just in terms, or excuse me, X. I think we covered most of the major news from the past week.
Yeah, and there's a lot, and there's certainly going to be a lot more over the next week. These are, this is the time where those, that information, things change so quickly. Being on top of the information, knowing what's going on, kind of locking yourself in. It's interesting. So it's a week from, well, I guess it'll be a week from today. So August 18th of last year. So next Sunday is a 1-year anniversary of the date that I drafted my 7th place team on Drafters. So that was a slow draft that took 2 weeks. It didn't finish till September 4th. But this is the time where if you're taking in the information and making the right reads with what you're hearing and learning. We joke about the the all preseason overreaction team here. But
some of it's going to be
info is very actionable.
Yeah, I was going to say some of it's going to be what's my cousin Vinny quote or something like that. Dead on balls, accurate. Some of it's going to be right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, nice.
Well, good stuff. Thanks for joining us. As always, we will be back next week. Once again, we had a price drop. We were down to $99, our Bestball Plus product. Come check us out. We've got a lot of great content coming out. We've got, we're continuing with our training sessions, and we are locked in for these last 3.5 weeks of drafting. So, with that, thank you all for joining us. Best of luck in the draft rooms. We will see you on Discord, Twitter, in the draft rooms, and at the top of the leaderboards. I am Mike. He is Billy. Goodbye.